Okay. Okay, we got it. Everything's looking as good as it's gonna get. Um, so a little about me. I write for a local. Alright, let's try it again. Okay, so a little about me. I write for a local art magazine, and one of the assignments that I was supposed to have written was my idea actually. It was called "Conspiracy is New Art." That assignment was due about a month ago, and I still have not written it. I haven't done it yet. So I figured maybe it'd be easier if I just said it and see if I can get even a rough outline of what I'm trying to say, and then just write it later. Um, so this is my attempt. This is my attempt to do that. Um, I think that I feel like there's like two major classifications of people, right? There are people who view reality, facts, truth, all those sort of platonic truths floating in the air or something like that. And they see them as somewhat hardened in their form. I feel like these people, the way that they interact with reality is as fixed objects. Facts is fixed objects. Kind of like with like Wittgenstein, he said that what the totality of facts is what makes reality. Or he says the case, right? If you put them all together, that's what makes the case. And he saw facts, especially atomic facts, as these, you know, like this. You can't get away from them. And I feel like with these type of people, the way that they move about in life is facts as tools, or well, not really tools. Scenery in the world, like a tree or a rock or something like that. And you can collect them or get around them or use them as some sort of obstacle, navigate through them as obstacles, but they are still there, you know. And I think there are also people, the second classification are people who see reality as more fluid. What I mean is that they kind of see um, facts and reality as much more pliable, in the sense that how we see these things and how we constitute reality is much more open to persuasion than the other way around. Do you get what I'm saying? Um, and I thought that um, that's essentially the way that art works. Basically, it's that a sort of looking at the world, a sort of perception of the world in a non-rigid manner. It's the idea that even the way that we see that we interact, either the way that we view reality is very bendable and open to interpretation and open to new forms and even ideas, and even perceiving life as such can be harnessed, trained, manipulated in a way, right? The whole point of it is that I think Werner Herzog said, "I just see a chair as a chair." A chair isn't really a chair, and even he said that he was quoting from somebody else, but even he said that, I manipulate facts to reveal truth, right? That's an example of what I'm talking about. Now, there's another group of people in that second classification that has the same idea. The spirit of the action is still there, but it just happened to grow in a different way. And that's what I think is a conspiracy theorist, right? They see the world, they see facts of the world as quite pliable, right? Because you kind of have to in order to fit it into, the facts of life into a cohesive narrative. Like, that's just kind of, you can't not do that, right? If you really wanted to view the world truly as it is, as objectively as you can, it'd probably just be a stack of data sheets, stacked to here, or a phone book or something like that. So those two groups still view things in the same way. So the purpose of this was to say that conspiracy theory, which has been around forever, especially modern conspiracy theory, operates pretty much as a new art form. But it works as a sort of decentralized art, right? So that there's not really one painter or one writer. Everyone is working together in order to basically mold pliable forms out of facts, out of reality, in a way to make it feel, in a way to make it pliable, to make it concrete, in a way. So it's using fluidity to make a sort of concreteness about the world, which I think, again, is just the same thing that artists do. Now, the reason I thought that was for a couple of reasons, actually. Reasons to sort of figure out, what is this central spirit? What is this inspiration that gives rise to both the artists and the conspiracy theorists? And is it the case that essentially what conspiracy is offering the creative instinct that is kind of like installed in basically everybody, that is usually turned off to people who aren't really that interested in art, because a lot of people, as I'm learning, a lot of people just aren't that interested in art. They just don't care about it all that much, right? They don't go to galleries. They don't really listen to music all that much. They don't watch film all that much. They don't really read, except if it's just for like nonfiction. It's just for information. And I was like, that spirit should still be there. The drive to create something, the drive to branch off even slightly in a world that isn't normally your own, I would think, is pretty much in everyone through one avenue or another. Why do I think that? There's a couple of reasons. One of them that I think that so one of the I think it was Johannes Kepler who discovered that the way the planets in our galaxy move, they don't move in these perfect little circles. They move more like ellipses, where they sort of lengthen and shorten, and they kind of, and the orbits make these odd shapes, like depending on the gravitational forces of whichever objects are around them. And one quote that I really like from him is whenever he realized this, he said, "What a foolish bird I've been," which I think is a great line. But I think the reason that was so devastating was that this pulled him away from the sort of divine, perfect symmetry that is so powerful to believe, especially in the old sort of Christian doctrine. It's a very beautiful thing to feel the entire cosmos moving around in these perfect shapes. But then realize that that's not the case. That's not how it works that way. But I think that the spirit of getting at that would still be there, trying to shape this world in order to try to create some sort of geometry, some sort of order out of the dead matter of Earth and kind of the dead matter of reality, really, because that's what artist is. That's what's an animator? A person who animates, a person who gives life to things that hasn't gotten life before, until somebody, puts in the idea of sequencing all these little pictures, one right after the other. That cohesive movement just won't happen. And that sort of animating style of, with the flip book, and you do like one image at a time. That just doesn't happen. There's no life about it. And I think similarly, the conspiracy theorist tries to do the same thing. You have something like, I don't know, something like 9/11, where you have, it took some planning to, hijack a plane and crash it into a building. So there was some sort of there's some sort of cohesion in that plan. But the idea of just a group of people deciding to, kill thousands of people by running into the building, and the idea that, the nation, the government, the army or whatever, who was in charge of making sure this type of thing didn't happen, well, they can't see into the future. It's a coordinated but basically random event. It's so antithetical to the way that we want to see the world that you have to have some sort of those facts. They feel so dead whenever they come out of your mouth, right? Because it's just a group of people wanting to kill a bunch of other people for their own, political, religious purposes, and then they just did it, and then now we have to deal with the aftermath. Yuck. Right? So I think what the conspiracy theorist does is try to form some sort of cohesive narrative, some sort of geometry, some sort of symmetry out of reality in order to sculpt something beyond it. So that's why they go, well, it was probably a coordinated effort that George Bush did in order for an excuse to invade Iraq or something like that. Now, I think a part of this that's really important is that just saying that's wrong, it didn't happen that way, I don't really think is getting at the core of the issue. I think similarly, saying that the 9/11 truthers are wrong is kind of like saying, it's kind of like going to a museum and seeing a painting of an apple and saying, well, apples don't really look like that. Looks like, okay, well, yeah, but you're not really getting at what they're trying to do. It's not about just seeing the apple and painting it the way that it looks like is immediately once you come to it. It's trying to get at a different aspect of reality that we don't usually work with, which is why I think a lot of conspiracy theorists are so desperate to bring people into the idea, and why, if you meet them, because I met a couple of them, people who were like professional theorists, they get so frustrated with trying to show people how and why it is that they see the way that they do. You can see it in their face and in their eyes. They almost just want to explode because they go, you people are sheep. You're just regurgitating what they want you to think, and you're not actually thinking. You guys are just zombies or sheep. And the tricky part is a lot of the time they're not wrong. That's how a lot of people operate there with the whatever information they're given, is they take it and they just run with it. I suppose really the tragedy of the conspiracy theorists is they're kind of doing the same thing but in the opposite way, like the coin flip reverse image of the same thing, of just taking and running with it. So that's one way I think that they're similar. Let's talk about Alex Jones. Alex Jones is, in my opinion, an artist. That's who I. That's what I think he is. And actually, I think he's actually. Um, if you think of art in terms of the effectiveness of art, in terms of influence, or in terms of reshaping our usual perceptions of the world, forming them, shaping them in order to release some sort of message from within to without. I think he's a very good artist. Now, I think he's, very dangerous and hysterical and a huckster. But I do think he is a very good artist at what he does. He's wildly entertaining. And just listening to him do just a pure stream of consciousness for like hours on end is very fascinating. You almost want to jump into his brain and like swim around in it. And again, just saying, well, it's wrong, as in like does not have a basis of reality, I think is kind of missing the point. It's not really about the right and wrong in the sense that we usually use it. Now, what's the problem with that? What's the problem with a lot of conspiracy theories? Why do they become so dangerous? Right? Because like half of my family are big conspiracy theorists. Like my brother believes that like the Vatican has these ancient batteries that pull, pull holy energy from the earth, and the batteries are like planted into the hexagonal structures of the floor or something like that. What's the problem? The problem is that the problem is that whenever they mix together a sort of metaphorical truth, metaphysical truth, subjective truth, and trying to mash it into what we would call objective reality, whatever that even is, and trying to mix those two together. Because I guess really what I'm saying is that an artist just wants to have their cake, and conspiracy theorist wants to have their cake and eat it too. Right? Because if you go to a gallery and the person who made the painting is there, and you go, I don't like this very much, I don't think this is a good painting, a lot of the times they're just gonna go, okay, then it's not for you then. Cool. You can't really do that with the conspiracy theorists, mostly because they're trying to do two things at once, which is like trying to sculpturize facts and make them in this, symmetric, pretty way, and also be correct in the veridical sense, right? They're trying to paint the apple the way that they see it, and paint the apple in a way that is realistic as possible, right? You can't really have both of those at the same time. So, but I do think it is correct. I do think, both the art and the theorists and the conspiracy theorists are tapping into the same spirit. It's the idea of that the world as we see it, the world as the world as it is doesn't become the world as we see it unless someone is there to use conscious experience in order to generate something out of it. It's kind of the same idea that like Donald Hoffman was talking about, which is it's not the case that when I hold this pen, when I look at it, it's not the case that I'm just not looking at it. I'm just not looking at a pen. Like, it's just not there. It just doesn't exist. That's not the case. It's more in the sense of whatever this object is in the veridical sense, in the objective sense, in reality, I don't know. But the qualities that make up penness, you could say, those are the things that our mind is constructing for just convenience, essentially. Our minds are the things that are taking the individual data, something along that lines. Taking all those, bits of data and molding them in a way so it becomes a cohesive object, so that we can manipulate it, so that we can do whatever it is that we want with it. We are the ones that are animating matter. We are the ones that are creating matter with our minds, with our consciousness. Now, again, I really got to preface this because I don't want to go too far into woo-woo territory. I'm not saying that it just doesn't exist. These things just don't exist if you don't look at them. But I do think it is the case that the object itself, the penness, the rock quality, the tree quality, I think Aristotle called it, well, he didn't say that, but it's the same idea of the gestalt, the thing, the quality that makes something greater than the sum of its parts. That's the thing that we create, right? That's the thing that we animate into existence. And I think the artist and the conspiracy theorists are two sides trying to do that same thing, trying to animate the gestalt, trying to create things out of the dead matter. So I think maybe in the future I would like to see galleries where there's just a little section of the gallery dedicated to conspiracy theories, to just watching somebody construct facts just in an aesthetically pleasing way, in a way that taps into sort of primal instinct to construct order out of nature, that sort of thing. I think that would be interesting. I would like to see that. I think that's all I have to say about that. Yep.